Hey everybody, thanks for watching. We got a lot coming up with Mer Boy Academy and a lot to get into in this video, so let's get into it. I know a lot of you guys have been enjoying the games, but there's a lot more games to come once the site is complete. We are nearing the completion of Mer Boy Academy and the site will be done September the 9th. We will upload the full completed site. This is your chance to get a Never Pay Again membership at an unbelievable price, $7.99. And we'll get into that in a second. There's a lot of accounts on Merkabah Academy, so we're giving everybody a chance to upgrade to Never Pay Again membership. If you are not a Never Pay Again member by Monday, your account will be deleted. But no worries, if you can't afford the $7.99, you'll have a chance to re-register 10 days after the site launches. Also, the new Merkabah Academy app will soon be available. You will get notifications and alerts. You will also be able to upload your favorite music and edit your course experience. Now, as I said before, we'll have teachers on Merkabah Academy. A few of you I'm already speaking to now. But if you would like to become a teacher on Merkabah Academy, make sure you send me an email. If you have anything to teach, if you have the skill, send me an email to Merkabah Academy. If you want to teach on Merkabah Academy, you'll have a chance to earn some money. You'll be able to interact with your students, as well as send out course materials, mass messaging, and a lot more. Merkabah Academy will be global, so even if you're overseas and you want to teach or you want to join the site, you'll be able to do so. So now, as I said, Merkabah Academy, this is your final chance to get Never Pay Again membership for $7.99, an unheard of, unbelievable price. This is your chance to get it. This sale will end on Monday, will be your final chance. We have to do this because we have to flush the site of members and we don't want to get rid of anybody who's a Never Pay Again member. So it's a lot of dummy pages, it's a lot of dummy subscribers. We have to get rid of those people, and we have to make sure that everybody who is on the site is engaged in the site. I know it's a lot to take in, but the site is almost complete and we appreciate your patience and support. Thanks for watching. Christopher Columbus, believe it or not, was inside the Alhambra castle that the Moors built, getting the blessing from Queen Isabella and Ferdinand to basically go and do what he was doing. Now, make no mistake, Columbus was a Roman. He was a Roman. He was just under the control of Spaniards, who was basically Romans. As I said, but he was a Roman. So he got the blessing to basically go out and do what he was doing. And on that ship, he had Moors. Everybody always talk about, well, it was black people on Columbus' ship to help him find America. There was Moors. Moors helped him do what he was doing. And you have to think about around this time. We're talking about, 15th, 16th century AD. Now, Europe is conquered. As I said, Europe is conquered. It's done. But remember, you have the rest of Africa untouched. It's still kingdoms in power in Africa. Remember, I talked about you have the Congo kingdom along the Swahili coast. You have the Kerma kingdom. You have so many kingdoms still in Africa existing. Mali, Songhai, still existing. Meanwhile, Northern Africa, kaput. Europe, kaput, all in the hands of European power. So you can look at the time frame. Look at what's going on. Right around this time, you see people, these African rulers start to switch into Islam or Christianity. You've seen what happened. So when you go look at the Songhai Empire, you look at Sunni Ali or what have you, and them converting into Islam. Mansa Musa, supposedly the richest man of all time, converting into Islam. A lot of these African leaders in Mali and Songhai converting to Islam. But it was a trap. It was a setup anyway. It didn't matter if they converted or not. Those lands were supposed to come under control of the Europeans. And that's what happened. Because even though they converted, as I said before, you got to think about it. When the Songhai Empire was at war with the Europeans, where was the Muslims? There's no way in the world the Europeans should have been able to take the Songhai Empire with the help of the Arabs. But it was a trap. It was a setup anyway. And those kingdoms, as I said, those warrior families was enslaved all throughout Africa. Their castles in ruins. Because there was the last remaining threat. Well, not the last yet. Get into that. Matter of fact, yeah, there was the last because this is after. Okay, so I'll talk about this in a second. But there was the last remaining threat to Europe, to Rome. Why? Because they had the knowledge. They had the knowledge of math and astrology and what have you. And eventually they would find out what happened. They knew their people ruled up in Europe. They understood it because they were trading with them for years. They understand it was a change in power. So to make that transition smooth, of course, as I said, they didn't kill all the Africans in power, the black people. They intermarried them. And eventually they breeded them out. But, it was only going to be, for a small amount of time. So when you had these Africans ruling in Africa, converted to Islam, when they was taken over, they was enslaved. The ones who didn't want to, act right, they was enslaved. And we are basically the descendants of them, over in America. So all those leaders in Benin and all throughout Africa, Congo, what have you, was basically enslaved by the Portuguese. I mean, when you see slavery starting out, as far as the European slavery, just again, the timeline. Look at the timeline. The time don't lie. This is how we kill the whole religious thing, because the time doesn't fit. It's the same thing here. Look at the timeline. You have the end of the Dark Ages, bringing about the whole Knights Templar, the whole war and everything. We're going to get into the whole Crusades too real fast in a quick second, because the Templars, again, big part. But just look at the timeline. Right around this time, you have Renaissance, you have all this stuff going on. You have still African kingdoms and power, but then all of a sudden you get this transatlantic slave trade. You get this whole slave trade. You get the Portuguese all of a sudden going crazy, enslaving the crap out of Africans all in Spain, because that's basically what they was doing. The Africans that was left in Spain enslaved. When the Portuguese, and when they got their hands on guns, because guns was the main thing that basically ended any kind of, war. Once the Europeans got their hands on the cannon and guns, it was over. They went into Africa and basically took, what they wanted to take. They didn't venture into Central Africa because they pussies. That's why you need a gun when you're a pussy. Because even with guns, they wouldn't survive. There's so many other things there besides the people, which they would have been surrounded, that would have killed them. But so many, animals and diseases or what have you, they probably would have killed them before any people. So they can't really go into Central Africa and conquer into there, which is why a lot of places still exist to this day. If you pay attention to the map, they went all on the outer part of Africa. Top part, Northern Africa, they have South Africa, all the coastlines is where they went and basically conquered. They never ventured inside because they knew even with guns, they was doomed. But with guns, they can fire cannons from off the shore, from the waters. They can do what they needed to do. When you look at a lot of those African castles, they're right on coastlines. The same thing when I was showing you guys in the picture when I went to Mallorca. You can see all the castles there. You always can see the ocean from each of the castles. They up high or they right next to the water. So this is what happened to the Africans. And they was basically, enslaved. So again, go real quick back to the whole war with the Knights Templar. The whole so-called Crusades. And you got to understand. Now, I talked about this before. Remember, I talked about how Muslims was Knights Templar, how the Muslims was a part of the Knights Templar and everything they tried to hide. Again, put the pieces together. The Moors. The Moors was the ones who basically passed their knowledge down to the Knights Templar. So when you had this connection with the Muslims and the Moors, you can't leave out. The Muslims and the Knights Templars, you can't leave out the Moors. The Moors was a part of that. The job of the Knights Templars was basically to go out there and get rid of the people that was in power. It was almost like an assassination squad, even though it was a bunch of them and everything like that. But you still had like a small group that was like the top dudes that was going out and assassinating leaders in Rome. So you got to understand, one, when the Moors taught this information to the Knights Templars, that was a mistake. Because the Knights Templars now had this information and knowledge. So if you remember in the Da Vinci Code, he was talking about how the Knights Templars just all of a sudden was given this unlimited power by the papacy. And then the papacy basically had them killed, and they basically, it's true, but it's not the way that they put it. This deals with the Moors. So when I titled this thing, when I put in the title, the Real Assassin's Creed, this is where it comes from. The Knights Templar was a threat to the church because they had the knowledge of the Moors. And the Moors was in pocket plain and simple. But the Knights Templar commanded this huge army. Plain and simple. The leaders had this knowledge. Of course, the whole army didn't, but a small group. These leaders had this information from the Moors, and there was a threat to the papacy. And the Assassin's Creed, if you pay attention to the game, is about the Knights Templar, the corporation that created the Animus. At the top of it are Knights Templar. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get this information. They're trying to get descendants. If you pay attention, most of them Spanish descendants to go into the Animus to get the memories that their ancestors had to collect these pieces. Supposed to be, I think it was called the Apple of Eden or something like that, to where when you get all the pieces, you get this knowledge, the knowledge to control free will or what have you. What are they talking about here? It's basically talking about the Moors and the Knights Templar, plain and simple. Because the Moors gave the Knights Templar this information, and the real Assassin's Creed was these Portuguese assassins that was hired to go wipe out the Knights Templar, the ones at the top who had this information. When you play the game Assassin's Creed, who are you killing? Throughout the game, you're killing a buttload of Knights Templar. A lot of people never put this stuff together. So you have coming up later on the new Assassin's Creed game where they have Assassin's Creed's Origin, I think it's called, with Kemet. It's trying to give you a hint. It's all going back to that, because that's where the knowledge of the Moors came from anyway. So it's all going back to that. So all this stuff comes together. It all gives you a picture. It all gives you a history that you can piece together to put together this history. So it's something that if you're not really paying attention to history, to a lot of the small things of history, you will look past a lot of this stuff. The Moors and the Knights Templar, again, you just got to pay attention to the time frame. Because if we're talking about around this time coming out of the Dark Ages into the Renaissance, and we know Moors is synonymous with Muslims, how can you leave out the Moors when it comes to the Knights Templars if the Muslims was with the Knights Templar? As I proved that point. You can't do it. So you got to understand, it was teaching them this information. Now, but what they try to accuse the Knights Templar of basically like worshiping Baphomet, because the Moors came up with Baphomet. They basically encoded it into the Quran to Islam. And that's one of the things they taught the Knights Templar, the codes of the religious doctrines. So when you look into Islam, into the book, they taught them how what Rome basically did. So when you look up Baphomet, it says Baphomet is a term originally used to describe an idol or other deity that the Knights Templar were accused of worshiping. And if you scroll down, and this is where it gets into the whole Islam part of it, because it says here clearly, Baphomet equals Muhammad. Again, this is when you decode all this stuff. It's too much to get into now, but something we'll get into later. It's basically was telling them this is where this is the code. This is what the Romans have. This is the secret. So they knew basically what the hidden code of the Bible and Islam and the Torah, what have you, was. The Knights Templar had that information along with the Moors, and they had to wipe them out for that. So this is what the Assassin's Creed was really about. It was going out, wiping out Knights Templar, not just them, Moors as well, the ones anybody who had this information or knowledge that basically they didn't have a hold on, the Knights Templar, the Moors or what have you, the Assassin's Creed, with the assassins was going out and wiping them out. This is already documented in Spain about the Portuguese assassins that was going out and wiping out the Knights Templar, and they was just around. It was known as the assassins. So this is where Assassin's Creed come from. This is why the castle, when I was in there, it just so happens, I took a picture with the Knights Templar crest or what have you. The reason why I took that picture is because it's in the part of the castle or the cathedral that was supposed to be the Muslim mosque built by the Moors. So it's weird that they will put this whole Knights Templar crest and everything here in relation with Moors and Muslims, trying to tell you something. So a lot of things you got to really pay attention to the clues that they give you. So getting back into Columbus, having a Moor going out into the Americas. Pay attention to how the Portuguese was basically enslaving everybody, the Africans, and how you get Spanish people into so-called Latin America. Plain and simple. They was in there bringing in Africans, setting up civilizations, and then eventually enslaving the people that was there, mixing in. I mean, so much mixing going on to where the fact that, Spanish people don't know where the hell they come from. They just don't know. They relate more with us, black people, than they do with the Spanish, with the Latin people in Spain, So you got to just look at the history and see how everything just fits, how everything works out. But the main point is to understand that none of this wouldn't be done. I mean, Columbus couldn't got to where he got to without a Moor. You got to understand that. The Moors betrayed us. So when you go back and you look at the depictions, once the colonies established America, what have you, and you start seeing those pictures of the dudes with turbans, Moors, with George Washington. Benjamin Banneker was supposed to be a Moor who helped set up the Masonic layout of Washington, D.C. Masonry comes from the Moors. Plain and simple. All this stuff starts to get established and set up. You start to understand what's taking place.